Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm going to be going over this presentation for augmentative and alternative communication, also known as AAC. So, AAC supports individuals to authentically express themselves in any way that they want. Anyone can benefit from AAC. There's no prerequisite skill that needs to be mastered before using it. Everyone should have access to accessible communication. So, it's just an extra tool in their little communication toolbox. AAC really helps to decrease that frustration that comes when you're not able to adequately express yourself. And when you think about it, if you weren't able to express yourself, you would communicate through behaviors. So this is why AAC can really help to decrease those behaviors that you're seeing caused by a lack of communication skills. AAC does not negatively impact speech development. Some studies show actually the opposite, that AAC actually increases verbal communication. Communication is more than just requesting things or requesting help. We should be using communication to protest, tell someone, stop, I don't like that. We should be using it to make comments or to direct attention. So saying, look, an airplane, or that's funny. We should be using it to describe things, to say like, wow, that's a really big dog, or she's super tall. And then another one would be to advocate for yourself, to be able to say, that's too loud, that's hurting my ears. So all of these are just the different ways that we could use an AAC device to communicate. There are way more that I haven't mentioned as well. When we think about AAC, we really have to think about motor planning, which is how our brain sends a message to a part of our body telling it to move. So when you think about speech, the brain sends a message to your lips and your tongue and whatnot to move, to speak. And so when we think about AAC, we need to use our finger to plan out where to press the button. And so we can think about it just like how when you learn to type on a keyboard, when you learn to text, your fingers naturally go to the buttons after practicing over time because your brain remembers that spot. So if I hit the more button, and the more button is always on the top right corner of my screen, my finger over time will remember more is over here. So I don't even have to think about it. So imagine one day all of the letters on your keyboard were randomly moved around. Think about how frustrating that would be. You would need to learn how to type again. So that is why we never want to move the buttons around on a device. We want to leave them where they are, always feeling free to add to the device, just not moving them around once it's been learned where they are. And how we teach people to use AAC devices is to model without expecting that they copy you right away. So you can think about it as when you talk to an infant, you don't expect them to copy you immediately. They have to hear you talking to them for a long time. It could be a year or more before they start trying to copy your words. So we need to give that time to AAC users and not expect them to copy right away. We just need to talk to them a lot using the device, and that's how they'll learn to use it themselves. And so when we talk to them, we don't want to quiz them and say, where's the apple? Show me the apple. Because that's quizzing them. That's not teaching them. We need to just describe what's happening in their environment, what might be going on in their brain, and give them the words that they might want to use. So a good example is if a child brings you a box that's super hard to open and they are handing it to you, expecting you to open it for them, then you can model, I need help. You could just verbally say that full phrase and then just press the help button on the device. You could model all of those words, whatever you choose, just model naturally whatever happens, whatever you think that is going on in their brain. And if they want to say that, then they might copy you. But we don't want to force them, because if we put all this pressure on them to say one certain thing that they might not want to say, that can cause a negative experience with using the device and communicating in general. So that is another reason that why we do not recommend using hand-over-hand prompting with AAC, which is where you take your someone's hand and make them select different symbols on the device. And we don't recommend that because for a variety of reasons that are listed. So one, it disrupts that natural motor plan that I was just talking about. finding the button on your own and remembering where it is. It can cause prompt dependence, where individuals will only communicate when they're prompted to do so. We want communication to be spontaneous and independent so that people have the ability to stand up for themselves or say or ask whatever they want when they want. If you're using hand-over-hand prompting, they might learn to accept that they don't have control over what happens to their bodies, and that's not a good thing to learn. Hand-over-hand prompting can cause a negative association with AAC, where it feels like work, when it should not. Communication should be fun and motivating. And we wouldn't use our hands to make their lips physically move, so why would we take their hand and make it move? Our goal should be spontaneous, autonomous communication. So what to do instead of hand-over-hand prompting would be, first, to say the word or phrase that you think they want to say verbally with your mouth. Then show them where the word is on the device. You can just gesture and point to it without selecting it and see if they're interested in saying it. If not, you can also model the word and press the button. And if they want to say it, if they're able to, then maybe they will. AAC should be robust, meaning there should be a variety of word options. There need to be core words, which are words that we can use in a variety of settings. For instance, like the words go, eat, want, more. All of these are core words. We also need to have a good amount of fringe words, which are very specific and can only be used in specific situations. So like the word banana. You might only use it when you're eating a banana. The word dog. You might only use it when you see a dog or when you're talking about how you like dogs. You can't use it in a variety of settings, but you should still have a little bit of both. So your grid size should be very large to allow for development of grammar and more language. You should be able to have a keyboard to type on. And so some examples of robust AAC would be Touch Chat and LAMP, because they have so many word options. They have the motor planning aspect. They have a large grid size that you can choose from. PEX and GoTalk are considered not robust because they have tons of fringe words, those specific words, but they don't have enough core words, which are, I would say, more important when you're learning to communicate about your wants and needs. They have a limited field size, like only a couple words to choose from. They lack that motor planning aspect because the pictures are always moving around. If you take it on and off using Velcro and put it on a different spot, then it's just going to take you that much longer to remember where the word is or find it. And they're mostly just used to request things. I know I talked about how we can communicate for a variety of reasons, like commenting, self-advocating, protesting. So mostly PEX and GoTalk are used for requesting, which is helpful, but we need more. Something that we recommend is to not limit or hide vocabulary on a device. And this is related to motor planning, because if you only teach one motor plan, it'll be really hard to add new motor plans. So someone might get stuck if they're only using their device to say stop and go. Then these might be the only words they have access to at first. It'll be hard to move on and learn more. So we want to encourage more communication and not limit it. So when someone gets an AAC device in the very beginning, they're going to explore it, just like how you would when you get a new phone or a new device of any kind. You're just going to click through, look, see what's available, and that's exactly what people do with an AAC device. So it might seem random to you. It might seem like they're just playing with it, but that is foundational to learning what language is available to me, where is it, and what does it mean? So this is something we want to encourage. It's just like babbling. When babies play around with the sounds in their mouth and babble, they're figuring out how to move their mouth to communicate. And this is just like using the device like that, exploring it and babbling. So it's very important to encourage babbling. It's the first step to finding all of the language that's available to you. And it's important too that when someone is babbling on AAC, that the communication partner, likely a speech therapist, will acknowledge what they are selecting on the device. So this helps teach them the meaning of the word and how they might use it. So if someone presses the button like, then I might acknowledge it saying, I can tell you like talking about planets, or maybe I like this AAC device. Something using the word like because they used it. So just adding on to it to help them learn how they might use it in the future. And definitely like giving access to the device at all times is preferable, to be able to take the time to explore it and figure out where the words are and feel more comfortable using the device in general. Something I just mentioned is to give access to AAC at all times. We should be able to communicate when we want, to who we want, whenever we want, and it shouldn't be used as a reward or a punishment. Communication is a fundamental right that we all deserve. And so it shouldn't be, once you finish this task that's really hard for you, then you'll be able to communicate. That's not how it should be. We should have access to communication at all times, because if you use it as a punishment or a reward, it can create this negative experience with communication, thinking that it's something that you need to earn. So we need to acknowledge and respect individuals when they express themselves, and even if it's not something we think they should say. Something that is super important for getting someone motivated to communicate using an AAC device is customizing it. So personalize your device. Make it more interesting by adding things that you realistically would want to talk about. So maybe pictures of family members, pictures of specific toys, foods that your family eats, characters and movies that you really love, songs that you enjoy, places that you go all the time. So just remember that we always want to add more words. We don't want to remove them or change the location of them. And that ends my presentation on AAC. I hope that you've gotten a lot out of this, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all. Thank you.